So we go to chapter 23, market structure. When we talk about market structure, we're talking about the characteristic that exist, or the things that exist in the market, the features that exist in the market. That is what we call the market structure, how the market is being set up. What are those things that the market entails? That's what we call the market structure. So we go. Okay. Market structure. So market structure is in terms for the conditions which exist in the market. Like I said, these are the conditions, the characteristics of a market. So there are numbers of categories of market structure, from very competitive to a monopoly which does not face any direct competition. The more competitive the market is, the more sellers and buyers there are. With a high number of sellers, each firm will have a small share of the market, accounting for a small amount of the total market supply. This means that the change in the output of one firm has little or no effect on price. The existence of a number of firms means that consumers can switch between the products of the rival firms. So look at things they really talked about competitive markets here. The first thing they said is, if it's a competitive market, when you have more sellers and buyers within that market. Here we're going to have more sellers in that market. So each seller would have little proportion of that market with them, because you have to share the customers. Yes. So nobody is going to dominate that market. That is the second characteristic there. So accounting for a small amount of the, so this means that a change in the output of one firm has little or no effect on price. So because it's a competitive market, a change in the output of firm A does not have any effect, or it has little or no effect in the price of the product, because the market is already saturated. Do you get what we're saying there? Yes. So you not producing in that market will not have any impact, would not mean that the supply of the products in that market would fall, because the market is already saturated. So it's a big market. Yes. It comprises of many suppliers. So you not being there again, or you stopping supply, would not affect the price of the product. So you reducing your output would not have any impact in the price.
Because there are more firms in that market.
In that market.
Yes.
Do you get the point?
Yes.
So in a competitive market, there is usually relatively free entry to and exit from the market. This means that there must not be anything which makes it difficult for the firms to enter or to leave the industry. That is, to start or stop with using the product. So it's a competitive market, which means there's free entry and exit. There mustn't be any reason why firms would be stopped from going into that market, and there shouldn't be any reasons why firms will also be stopped from getting out of the market. So it is free into the market, free out of the market. Clear?
Yes.
We'll move on. So the behavior of a competitive firm. In a competitive market, there's pressure for firms to keep prices low. If an individual firm charges a higher price, it runs the risk of losing all its sales to its rivals, as the products are likely to be close substitutes. Firms may seek to gain a competitive advantage by improving their products. They are likely to respond quickly and fully to any changes in demand. Because it's a very competitive market, they have certain behavior, and the behavior is basically on price. In a competitive market, prices tends to be low. And if you keep increasing your price, you will start losing customers to your competitors. So that is why in a competitive market, prices are always affordable for consumers. Do you get it?
Yes.
So what firms could do is to gain competitive advantage. How can they gain competitive advantage? They can gain competitive advantage by improving on their products, maybe the quality of their products, or the services they render.
Yes.
Do you understand? Yes. Or being flexible enough to be able to meet up with changes in the demand for their customers. So this makes them to be reliable, and customers will be loyal to them. So in a competitive market, you need to be more flexible to consumer demands. In a competitive market, you need to be efficient so that you can also sell at a lower price, because your competitors will sell at a lower price to attract customers. And like I used to say, there's no customer in heaven. All the customers are here. So if you have to gain those customers, you have to provide them with those things that they need at affordable prices. I think that is clear.
Yes.
We move on. Easy entry and exit will mean that in the long run, firms will probably earn relatively low profits. In some cases, this may be just enough profit to keep them producing the products. We could call that maybe a normal profit or profit satisfies. So in a competitive market, in the long run, profit will be less because new firms will continue to emerge into that market. So what happens if new firms continue to emerge? The demand for each firm would start reducing.
Wait,
Yes.
can you repeat it?
In the long run,
Yes.
in a competitive market, in the long run, profit will start reducing. Why? Because in the long run, new firms will be emerging into the industry. Yes or no?
Yeah.
So because new firms are coming in, demand for each firm will start reducing because the customers for each firm will start reducing. You start just looking for customers.
Market share will be less.
The market share will be less. Yeah, thank you. So as a result of that, what happens to your revenue? Revenue will fall.
Yeah.
And if revenue is falling, profit will also fall.
Yes. Yes.
So that's why in a competitive market, in the long run, profits will fall. Is it clear?
Yes.
So they said they may earn more or less than this level of profit, which is okay. It said in the short run, they may earn more or less than this level of profit, which refers to a normal profit. If demand for the product rises, the firm in the industry will make higher than normal profit. This level of profit is called supernormal profit. If in the short run, firms in the competitive market could make normal profits, profit that is enough for them to continue their production. But if the demand for their products increases in the short run, they will make supernormal profit or abnormal profit.
If it decreases in the short
If it increases, if the demand for their product increases in the short run, they would up the price and they can make abnormal profit, which is the same as supernormal profit. Is it clear?
it's more than it's more like yeah,
In the short run,
more than maximization.
I will explain. In the short run,
Yeah.
in the short run, it's difficult for consumers to switch, to find substitutes. So if the demand in the short run for their product increases, it would have meant that in that market, there's shortage.
Yeah, I get, yeah.
So if there's shortage in the market, what do you do with your price?
If it was short,
If there's shortage in the market, what do you do with your price?
Increase.
You increase your price. And as soon as you increase your price, what happens? The demand is still increasing. You will make abnormal profits.
Yeah, because it's in demand, yeah.
That is the point there. Clear?
Yes.
On the other hand, if demand falls, firm would initially make a loss. This will force some firms out of the industry. The exit of the firms will reduce supply, cause price to rise and restore normal profits. So if demand falls, profit will fall. As a result, a lot of firms will leave the industry because they are not making profit anymore.
Yes.
So if they cannot make profit, what happens? Firms will start leaving that industry, isn't it?
Yes.
As soon as they start leaving the industry, supply for goods and services will start falling in that industry as a result of that. That will increase the price again. And firms will start making normal profits.
But there will not be demand for that market. Or it will be demand for that market if firms will go.
If firms are leaving, output will fall.
So demand will be less.
Demand will be high.
Okay.
Firms are leaving the industry. If firms are leaving the industry, what happens?
Sure.
Output will reduce. Supply will be less than demand. Price will rise.
Yeah, I get it.
So we go to performance. We're talking about the behavior of a competitive market.
Yes.
The behaviors are this. One, firms will want to sell at a lower price to be able to attract customers. As a result of that, before you attract, that's one thing about competitive market. The second thing is that they have to share the customers. So in the competitive market, market share tends to be less because all firms have to just do for customers. In a competitive market, in the long run, they tend to make abnormal profits if the demand for their product increases. But if the demand for their product falls, a lot of firms will leave the industry. As a result, the output in that industry would fall. Prices will increase and they will start making normal profit. That is the behavior of a competitive market. Clear?
Yes.
Now go to the performance of competitive firms. Now, performance of competitive firms. They said a high level of competition is usually expected to promote efficiency. It provides firms with both an incentive and a threat to produce according to consumers' wants at the lowest possible cost. Any firm that can respond more quickly to consumers' demands or can cut its cost should gain a competitive advantage and earn higher profits. That is a firm. So what they are saying is for a firm to perform in a competitive market, it needs to understand how to produce efficiently. So a firm must have allocative and productive efficiency to survive in a competitive market. So the performance should be based on how best you can allocate and how best you can produce. How best you can allocate means the flexibility you have to meet up with the demands of your customer. How best you can produce is that ability you have to be able to produce at a lower cost. So that is the performance of a competitive firm. So you are going to be a competitive firm if you are able to manage your allocative efficiency and productive efficiency well, because that gives you a competitive advantage over your competitors. The threat arises because any firm that is not efficient produces at a higher cost or does not respond in changes to consumer taste. Look at what we said earlier. We said the performance of a firm in a competitive market is based on how it can allocate its resources and how it can produce its goods. Any firm that cannot be allocative efficient or productive efficient will be running at a loss because its cost will continue to rise. As a result, it will not have any other choice than to sell at a higher price. Selling at a higher price is risky because you're going to start losing customers to competitors.
Yes.
Before you know it, you are out of the business. That is a threat in a competitive market. So it's either you perform or you are out of the market. That is the point there. Is it clear?
Yes.
So a higher level of competition may drive the price down to a level which just covers the cost. That price, however, may not be that low. This is because competitive firms are likely to be small and often production on a large scale reduces unit cost. So the last thing about the performance is this. Prices, there's high level of competition. That's why we said it's a competitive market. And what is competition? What is even competition? Competition means the rivalry that exists between firms in an industry. So if the level of competition is high, firms would be forced to be efficient. In the course of being efficient, they'll be able to produce large proportion at a lower cost. That means prices should fall. So those firms that are unable to sell at a lower price are out of the business.
Yes.
That is all about that. I think it's clear.
Yes, it is.
So we've talked about a competitive market. We've talked about the behavior of a competitive market. We've talked about the performance of a competitive market. Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. Now go to monopoly.
There's types of markets, Mr. Excuse me. Niche or something like that, and the other one.
No, that is that we have a niche market and
That's for business.
mass markets.
That's for business, right? Or
here is a structure. This is how the business is,
yes.
How the market is. But that we're talking about what they produce. Oh, this product is for the mass. This product is for specific customers. So it's different. The kind of the production you make will determine if it is a mass production or a niche production.
Like,
it is not the same as market structure.
Like for example, Samsung and iPhone.
This mass is mass products.
iPhone doesn't target all the.
It's mass. It's mass. When we talk about Ferrari, when we talk about Rolex, when we talk about Bugatti,
that's niche.
These are niche markets.
Even Apple. I don't know, but I think it's like that.
It's mass.
Okay.
I wouldn't see Apple. It's mass production.
Because they target only the high price. It's only high price.
Yeah, it could be high price, but to the masses. Anybody could buy. Anyone could buy.
They can buy it, yeah.
So that's not a niche. Yeah. A niche market is a market for specific customers.
Yes,
it's not. Niche or mass is not a structure. It's based on the production and the targeted customers. But the structure is how the characteristic of that market.
That's for business, not economics. So it's
Anywhere.
Anywhere.
There's a market.
Yes.
In terms of production. There's a market in terms of structure. This is a market in terms of structure. We have competitive market, we have oligopoly, we have monopoly. These are market in terms of structure.
Yes.
But when we talk about mass or niche, we're talking about market in terms of production. You get the difference now, please? Great. So go to monopoly. Monopoly markets. You said monopoly market. The usual meaning of the monopoly is a sole supplier of a product, having 100% share of the market. So it's a monopoly because it's the only one supplying in that market. So the market share of such firm is 100%. It's either you buy from that business or that firm, or you don't buy. That means it is the only market, it is the only business or firm existing in that industry.
Can you give me an example? If there is
monopoly.
Yeah.
The General Electric Company of Libya, GECOL, the electricity company, is a monopoly. It is the only supplier of electricity in Libya.
Yes, yes.
So the electricity industry in Libya, it only contains who? What? GECOL, General Electric Company of Libya. That's a monopoly. So a monopoly is a market structure that has only one firm supplying that in that industry. So the firm itself is the industry. Do you get it?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So this is also referred to as a pure monopoly, and we concentrate on this definition. Some government define a monopoly as a firm that has 25% or more share of the market, and a dominant monopoly when the firm has 40% share of the market. So they said we will consider it as a monopoly if it has 25% more of the share of the market or 40%. So if a firm is having 40% of the share of the market, yes, it's a monopoly.
Yes, yes.
Because that means you have 40% of the customers.
Only if
it means you have 2/3. You have more than 2/3.
Only if there is one having 50. That's different.
There wouldn't be. If you're having 40, nobody will have 50.
Oh yeah, because
you wouldn't have 50. Do you get it?
Yes, yes, I get
if a firm is having 40, the other firms are sharing the 60.
All of them, not all of them. Yeah.
The other firms will be sharing the 60.
Yes, yes.
So what are the characteristics of monopoly? One, the firm is the industry. I said it earlier, right? I said the firm is what? The industry itself. So it has 100% share of the market. Two, there are high barriers to entry and exit, making it difficult for other firms to enter the market. So it's a monopoly because it is the only firm in the market. No other firm in that market. I think it's mine, right?
Yeah.
No other firm in that market. It is the only firm in that market. So it is difficult for new firms to set up in that market. That's why we call it monopoly. The third one, a monopoly is a price maker. Its output is the industry's output, and so changes in its supply affect the market price. So it's a monopoly. So whatever it produces is what the industry will produce. So it decides the price to sell. It could choose not to supply the market to the market because it's the only one supplying. So it's a market, it's a price maker. Are we together?
Yes.
So why do monopolies arise? It may be worthwhile to consider the causes which led to a firm having total control of a market. In some cases, a monopoly may develop over time. One firm may have been so successful in cutting its cost and responding to changes in the consumer taste in the past that it has driven out rival firms and captured the whole market. Also, mergers and takeovers may result in the numbers of firms being reduced to one. So how does monopoly come into existence? The first way is that there could be a firm. There's an assumption that a firm which is responding swiftly to the needs and the wants of customers, to the demands of customers, which produces goods at affordable prices, is able to attract more customers, gain more customer loyalties than the rest of the competitors. So within a short period of time, or within even a long period of time, those firms cannot compete anymore. So they lost their competitiveness. They leave the market. So now here it becomes that only firm producing. That's one of the instances of having a monopoly. So the firm is dominating the industry. The industry is not monopolistic. but the firm is dominating that industry with its way of operations. It operates on a large scale, which makes it to enjoy economies of scale. It produces goods with efficiency, both allocative and productive. It has customer loyalty. So a lot, it's okay.
So it was the
So alternatively, a monopoly may exist from the start. One firm may own, for example, all the gold mines in a country, or it may have been granted monopolistic powers by a government, which makes it illegal for other firms to enter the market. A patent would also stop other firms from producing the product. So other ways in which we can talk about monopoly is that the government of a country might give that firm the sole authority to produce. So if that is done, so it is illegal for other firms to come into that country, to that industry.
like the electricity thing that we
Yes. You get it? The second reason is that you could get a patent, which means you have the only right to produce goods or services in that country. That's another way. You get it?
Yes,
Any question about monopoly there?
I know.
So why do monopolies? Now, we talked about why monopolies existed. Now, why does monopoly continue? So why do monopolies continue? Another important question is to be asked is, what stops new firms from breaking into the market and providing competition to a monopoly? It is the existence of barriers to entry and exit. One type of barrier is a legal barrier. As mentioned above, this may be in the form of a patent or a government act. So monopoly continue to exist if government makes an act or comes up with a law backing that firm to continue production. So any firm that wants to come into that industry, it becomes illegal for any firm to come into that industry.
Yes.
So that's one way in which monopoly will continue to exist. The second one is through the patent. So you don't have any other right to produce such product. It is only given to that business to produce. So, and the patent is not given to any other person than the business.
Yes.
So another important barrier to entry is the scale of production. If the monopoly is producing on a large scale, it may be able to produce at a lower unit cost. A new firm unable to produce as much is likely to face higher unit cost and therefore will be unable to compete. Another way in which is difficult, there's a barrier to entry, because when we say there's monopoly, when we talk about monopoly existing and or continuing, it means there's barrier to entry. It means new firms are not allowed to come into that industry. So one of the ways is through government laws or patents. The second one we're talking about here is the scale of production. As a monopoly, as a firm operating as a monopoly, you are operating normally you are operating on a large scale. Yes or no? Yes. So because you are operating on a larger scale, you would have enjoyed all economies of scale, internal economies of scale within that industry, isn't it?
Yes.
As a result, new firm coming in will not be able to operate on a large scale as yours, as you are operating. So new firm coming in will witness high cost of production. So witnessing high cost of production would not allow that such business to sell at a lower price to compete with you. So you will be able to sell at a lower price because you are operating on a large scale. But a new firm coming in will not take that risk to operate on a large scale initially. So the fear of not being able to compete when it comes to price would make them to opt out from the market. So they wouldn't want to try it. They wouldn't want to risk it because they already know that it's difficult for them to sell at a lower price due to the fact that that firm is dictating that industry. Do you get it?
Yes.
So barriers to exit can also stop new firms from entering the market. One barrier to exit may be a long-term contract to be provided to provide the product. Some firms may be reluctant to undertake such a commitment. A significant barrier to exit is the existence of a sunk cost. These are costs such as advertising and industry-specific equipment, which cannot be recovered if the firm leaves the industry. So the barriers to entry is one way. The other one is the barrier at the exit barrier, which could be through the long-term contract. So like the General Electric Company of Libya,
yes,
it is the only one supplying electricity.
Yes.
Maybe there's a new firm wanting to come in. The government could tell them that if you want to set up here, if you want to start supplying electricity, you have to sign a contract of 50 years with us. They were like, what? What about if it doesn't make profits? You can't do this.
This solve it up.
Do you understand? So you wouldn't want to put yourself into a situation that is difficult for you to go out from. Because it's a market, it is based on assumption. You wouldn't know what could happen after that. But because you put yourself into it, you are committed to it, you won't be able to opt out. So that's what we call barrier to exit. So you want to come in, yes, but the conditions to come in, and to stay in that industry are difficult to bear. Do you get it?
Yes, sir.
So most of the firms would not want to take such commitments. That is what we call barriers to entry and exit. So these are the reasons why monopoly will continue. Do you get what we're talking about? We're talking about the reasons why monopoly will continue. One is through government laws or legislation or act. The second one is through patents. The third one is the scale of production, where the existing firm operates on a large scale, which makes it difficult for other firms to come in and operate because they won't be able to operate on a large scale.
Yes.
And the third, the one we talked about now is barriers to the sunk cost or the barriers to exit. The barrier to entry is another thing, which is the scale of production, and the barrier to exit, the sunk cost. It is difficult because you think about the amount of money you have to spend in a long period of time. You won't be able to opt out if anything goes bad. You have to continue. You have to honor that contract. So these are the reasons why monopoly might continue. Any question about that?
No.
So we go to the behavior of monopoly. So the behavior of monopoly. The existence of barriers to entry means that a monopoly can earn supernormal profit, abnormal profit in the long run. Firms outside the industry may not be aware of the high profits being earned. If they do know about the high profit and want to enter the industry, they are kept out by the high barriers to entry and exit. I think that point is clear.
Mm-hmm.
A monopoly because a monopoly is a price maker, it's going to earn abnormal profits.
Yes.
Firms outside that industry, potential firms, would not know how much profit those firms make, that firm makes. But if they happen to know, they would want to come in because it's an incentive for them to come in. But the monopoly would create a barrier that would not allow them to settle. That's the behavior of a monopoly. Do you get it or not?
Yes.
So, a monopoly has control over the supply. A monopoly has control over the supply of the product, but although it can seek to influence the demand, it does not have control over it. In fact, a monopoly has to make a choice. It can set the price, but then it has to accept the level of sales that consumers are prepared to buy at that price. If on the other hand, it chooses to sell at a given quantity, the price will be determined by consumers. The price will be determined by what consumers are prepared to pay for this quantity. So what we're saying is this: a monopoly is a price maker, yes. A monopoly decides what to produce, yes. No, a monopoly has power over what it produces, yes. But the monopoly does not have power over what it sells. Do you get what I'm saying here?
Yes.
The monopoly does not have power. Why does the monopoly doesn't have power? The monopoly doesn't have power because consumers will decide what is good for them. It's a monopoly, accepted. Yes. It can set the price, accepted. It can produce certain limit or certain quantity of output, accepted. These are the behavior of the monopoly. But one thing that the monopoly does not have control over is the demand for the product. So you can produce as much as you want to produce because you are the only one in the market. You are the only one in the industry. But you cannot force customers. You cannot put guns to their head to come and buy. You can't. Yes. So a monopoly would have power over the price, would have power over the output, but can never have power over what it sells. That is why sometimes the consumers decide the price a monopoly will sell. Because consumers will be, demand is what? The willingness and the ability of consumers to buy a product at a given price and time. Yes or no? Yes. So as a result of that, you have produced the product. It has to be effective. Demand has to be effective. That means consumers must be willing to buy that product at a given price. So as a result of that, a monopoly might be forced to sell at a lower price. Do you get it?
Yes.
So look at what they said. They said, if a firm set the price at P, the demand curve determines that it will sell amount Q. If it sets the price at P, it will sell at Q. But if it decides to sell amount Q1, it will have to accept the price at what? P1. Yeah. So if a monopoly sets the price as high as P, no problems. It will sell for those who can afford it. But if it really wants to sell to the market, it needs to reduce the price to P1. That is when the quantity supplied and the quantity sold will increase from Q to Q1. Is it clear?
Yes.
So that is the behavior of a monopoly. A monopoly has power to decide the price of its product. It has power to decide on the quantities of output, but never has power to determine who buys or who don't buy, because demand depends on consumers. So we go to the performance of monopoly. Monopolies are often criticized. This is because they are concerned. This is because they are concerned that the absence of competition may lead to inefficiency. A monopoly may restrict the supply to push up prices and may produce a poor quality product, knowing that consumers cannot switch to other products. Look at the performance of the monopoly here. Monopolies are being criticized. For one, they don't have competitors. As a result, they may become inefficient. Being inefficient in the aspect of not productive efficient. They might not care about the cost of the product because they know they can transfer the cost to the shoulders of the customers.
Yes.
So they wouldn't care about finding a way of reducing their cost of production. They wouldn't care. And that makes them inefficient. And this happens because they know they don't have competitors. Also, they could provide poor quality products that lack quality. They know customers do not have any other choice. They know customers do not even have information about the product. So this brings about inefficiency, which is one of the problems about monopoly. The second one, it is possible, however, that a monopoly could be relatively efficient and actually benefit consumers. If it produces on a large scale, its unit cost and price may be lower than that in a more competitive market. In fact, in some cases, a monopoly would definitely be more efficient than competition. This would be the case when it prevents the wasteful duplication of capital equipment. For example, it would be expensive and possibly unsafe to have a number of different firms laying and operating rail tracks. In the other way around, a monopoly could be efficient. And if it is efficient, it will be able to sell at a lower cost, at a lower price to consumers. Because it is going to operate on a large scale. So because a monopoly operates on a large scale, it is easier for such monopoly to enjoy economies of scale, making its average cost of production to fall drastically. So that means a monopoly could sell at affordable prices and provide quality products or produce quality products than even in a competitive market. Because in a competitive market, the scale of production cannot be large as that of a monopoly. Is it clear?
Yes.
And with monopoly, there won't be repetition of resources. There won't be wasting of resources. Libya is a small population. So General Electric company supplying electricity is enough. Bringing another company to supply could become a waste. That is what we're talking about.
Yes.
Based on the population. Is it clear?
Yeah.
All right. A monopoly's high profit would also enable it to spend on research and development, and therefore it may introduce new improved variations. Although it does not have direct competitive pressure to do this, it knows that it will receive all the profits resulting from any successful introduction of new methods and products. In addition, the need to overcome barriers to entry and break the monopoly may encourage firms outside the industry to try and develop a better product. A monopoly, the last thing about the performance of a monopoly can invest on research and development. Why? Because it has enough revenue to do that, to make it supernormal profit. Yes or no? So there's enough financial capability to make research, to invest on research and development. And being able to do that means a monopoly can come up with new ideas, new products that will be beneficial to consumers. Yes or no?
Yeah.
By so doing, they will be able to make more profit. They could choose not to do it. Yes or no?
Yes.
So, what happens? because the market is still not open to new firms. New firms understanding that they can produce goods or services that are better than what that monopoly is producing, they might start producing a substitute that would take customers' awareness away, that would attract customers from that monopoly. It might take a long period of time, but it could happen. So the fear of not wanting other firms to break that monopoly would make monopolies to start investing on research and development. Is it clear?
Yes.
The last one here is occurrence of monopoly. They said number of firms that can be defined as monopolies depends in part on the way the markets have been defined. So the more narrow the definition in terms of the product and geographical area, the more examples will be found. For example, a country may have only one firm supplying gas, but several firms in its energy industry. There may be a relatively high number of food retailers in a town, but only one food shop on an estate, making it a local monopoly. So monopoly comes in different variations. This is an area. We might only have one restaurant in this area. Makes it a monopoly in this area. That's a local monopoly. Yes. It doesn't mean that there are no other fast food or restaurants around the state or the countryside. But because here it is only one, so it is a local monopoly. Do we get it? Yes. So monopoly is based on how restricted the supply is. If the supply is restricted to one within an area, it's a monopoly. Is it clear? Yes. Any question about that? No. So we move down. So multiple choice questions. They say, which of the following is a feature of a competitive market?
Competitive market.
Yeah. The competitive market. Easy entry and exit, yes. Question 2. Indian Railway is a monopoly firm. What does this mean?
Indian Railway
is a monopoly firm. So the firm has no competitors. Yes. Question 3. In which type of market structure can supernormal profit be earned in the short run? In the short run.
Monopoly.
No, competitive market.
Which type of,
competitive market. Question 4. Which of the following is a barrier to entry?
Barrier.
It's a barrier to entry. Which of the following is a barrier to entry?
Wait. Brand loyalty.
Brand loyalty is.
Yes.
Question 4. That's all about market structure and monopoly.
Should we do this?
Which one?